Yes, the boys and the girls, the guys and the gals, you're going to like this one because it's about Robin Hood. Anyway, before we get into that, we need to get into this. So, the main sponsor for this Sunday video is A-Frame Valeting. They're based in Hensford, but they work mobile, so they can come, they can clean your caravan, they can clean your trailer, and they can also clean your horse box to an A-star standard. And all you need to do is ring this number right here, or you can email that email right there, or you can go on this Facebook page right here. If you do go through the Facebook, make sure you check out the 100% recommended reviews. Andy seems like a sound guy, so give him a bell and see what he can do for you. I also want to say a big thank you to the sponsors of these Sunday videos, because without these guys, these videos wouldn't happen. So let's support the ones that support us.
Did Robin Hood really marry beneath this ancient yew tree in the churchyard of St Cuthbert at Doveridge? It's a story that's been repeated around the village for generations. According to local tradition, Robin Hood and Maid Marian stood beneath these spreading branches, and they promised themselves to one another, while the ceremony was conducted by a clergyman from Doveridge. The tree's certainly old enough to make the story feel possible. Its hollow trunk, immense branches, and heavy wooden supports give it the appearance of something that's watched over the churchyard since the distant past. Yet when we follow the legend back towards its earliest written source, the story becomes slightly different. The connection comes from an old ballad called Robin Hood's Birth, Breathing, Valour and Marriage. Surviving versions of it date from the 17th century, although it was later included among the traditional ballads collected by Francis James Child. Like so many stories surrounding Robin Hood, it was written centuries after the period in which the outlaw was supposed to have lived, so it can't be treated as a reliable account of an actual medieval wedding. But what it does provide is a genuine and rather unexpected connection between the Robin Hood legend, Tutbury and Doveridge. The woman that Robin meets in the ballad is not actually called Maid Marian. Her name's Clorinda, and she's described as the queen of the shepherdesses. Robin encounters her while she's out hunting deer, and after seeing her bring down a buck with an arrow, he invites her to join him for a feast. Clorinda accepts, and the meeting quickly develops into a marriage proposal. The title attached to some of the early versions describes the occasion as Robin Hood's marriage at Tutbury Bullrunning, while the ballad itself refers to the feast at Tutbury, an older rendering of Tutbury. This brings the story to the historic settlement surrounding Tutbury Castle, and the church now known as the Priory Church of St Mary. St Mary's is the surviving portion of the former Benedictine Priory established at Tutbury shortly after the Norman Conquest. Much of the monastic complex disappeared following the dissolution, but the western portion of the church survived because it continued to serve the local population as their parish church. Although the building standing today preserves medieval work, there's no evidence that Robin Hood entered it, or that the marriage described in the ballad happened inside. Its importance to this story is that it gives us a surviving piece of the religious landscape of the Tutbury named in this tale. After Robin and Clorinda have eaten, the ballad says that Sir Roger, the parson of Doveridge, is sent for in haste. He arrives carrying his mass book and joins the couple in marriage. The older spelling makes Doveridge appear as something closer to Dubridge, but the place has long been identified with a village only a few miles from Tutbury. Now that matters because Doveridge was not simply added to the story by a modern tourist guide or a sign placed beneath the tree. A parson from Doveridge is present within the historical ballad itself. Tutbury provides the setting, Clorinda's the bride, and the man who performs the marriage comes from Doveridge. What the ballad don't clearly say is that Robin and Clorinda travelled here to St Cuthbert's church, or that they stood beneath this particular yew. Sir Roger appears to have been summoned to them at Tutbury, where he performed the ceremony before Robin and his new bride returned towards the greenwood. This famous tree in Doveridge is never mentioned. Somewhere during the later retelling of the story, the connection shifted. The parson of Doveridge became the church at Doveridge, and the ancient tree standing in its churchyard offered the perfect location for the ceremony. Clorinda was also gradually replaced by the far more familiar Maid Marian, until the local version became the story of Robin Hood and Marian being married beneath these branches. The development was understandable. This yew is believed to be at least 1,000 years old, although its exact age cannot be calculated with certainty because the centre of the trunk has hollowed and decayed. Its vast limbs have required props and chains to prevent them spreading or collapsing under their own weight. Even without Robin Hood, it's one of the most remarkable living features of Doveridge. The association with Robin Hood is also older than the modern internet versions of the story. An account recorded in the 19th century already claimed that Robin Hood and Maid Marian had been married beneath this tree. That doesn't prove that the event happened, but it shows that the connection had become established in local folklore long before our time. There have also been attempts to give Robin Hood a wider connection with this part of the country. Needwood Forest once covered a large area of Staffordshire between the Trent and the Dove, including land around Tutbury and extending towards villages such as Abbots Bromley. It provided the kind of wooded landscape in which the outlaw tradition could easily take root. The newspaper article associated with this story went further, drawing attention to a medieval record of a family using the surname Hodes near Loxley, between Abbots Bromley and Uttoxeter. It suggested that the combination of a suitable name, nearby woodland, and a possible reason for conflict with authority might provide the beginnings of a local Robin Hood candidate. It's an intriguing theory, but remains only a theory. Surnames resembling Hood appear in several medieval records, while different places have claimed their own Loxley as the outlaw's birthplace. None of this gives us enough evidence to identify the legendary Robin Hood as one particular man from Needwood Forest. That's the difficulty with Robin Hood. He may preserve different memories of one outlaw, several different men or stories that were gradually brought together around a single famous name. As each generation retold the legend, new places and characters were drawn into it, until history and folklore became almost impossible to separate. So did Robin Hood really marry beneath the Doveridge yew? There's no historical evidence that he did. The oldest ballad connecting his marriage with this area places the feast at Tutbury and names Clorinda rather than Maid Marian. It sends for a parson from Doveridge, but it never brings the wedding into this churchyard and never mentions the tree. Yet the Doveridge tradition was not created from nothing. It grew from a genuine detail within an old Robin Hood ballad, combined with an ancient tree that may have already been standing during the medieval period. Over time, the landscape filled the gaps left by the story. Perhaps Robin Hood never stood here. Perhaps Maid Marian never waited beneath these branches. And perhaps the only connection was a fictional parson summoned from Doveridge to a celebration in Tutbury. But for generations, people have looked at this tree and imagined the wedding taking place beneath it. That belief has now become part of the history of the tree itself. If you like this story, please follow me for more.